All right, let's go over the directed reading B for the tropics and the temperate zone and the polar zone. So I'm going to go kind of fast just because there's a lot to do here. So for 1 is B, 2 is B. Tropical zone is almost always hot because it gets the most solar heat. It gets the most direct sunlight. 3, tropical rainforests have the largest number of animal and plant species. There's so much heat there, there's so much precipitation that it's good for a lot of plants and animals. And 4 is monkey. 5, what makes the soil of tropical savanna so rich, which means so it has a lot of nutrients in it. It's really good for growing plants. The soil is deep soil, and the reason for that is actually grass fires. So fire is actually a good thing in nature, sometimes. 6 is D, and 7 is B, scorpion. All right, now I'm going to jump ahead to the directed reading B for temperate and polar. So number 1 is temperate zone. It's the zone between the polar and tropics. It's a seasonal zone, so the temperate zone has 4 seasons. Those areas have 4 seasons. 2 is deciduous trees, and those are trees that lose their leaves each fall. Trees that have big, flat, broad leaves. And then another type of tree is an evergreen tree. Sometimes we call those conifer trees. But those can also grow in temperate zones. Temperate grassland has the most fertile soil. So it's really deep, thick soil. It's really good for farming. So like the Midwest of the United States, places like Iowa and Nebraska, they have really deep, thick, fertile soil because those are temperate grasslands. 5 is chaparral. The plants have adapted to fire, so they have really thick bark that protects them if there's a fire. 6 is a coyote. 7 is low humidity. So the reason it gets so cold in the desert at night and so hot during the day is because there's no moisture in the air, or no moisture on the ground, no water on the ground to kind of absorb the heat. So it has these drastic, radical temperature changes from day to night. Lizards live in the temperate desert. The polar zone has the coldest average temperature, so this is the coldest climate, polar zone. For 10, 24 hours of night in the winter and almost 24 hours of daylight in the summer, that's the tundra. 11, the soil in the tundra, we call it permafrost because it's permanently frozen. Even in the summer, it only thaws at the very top of the soil, so it wouldn't be like you couldn't dig into the permafrost because it's always frozen. It's like icy. 12, insects actually, at the very top of the permafrost, it gets really muddy. And then that's a good place for insects to live. So there's a lot of bugs in the tundra in the summertime. 13, why do the birds go to the tundra in the summertime? Well, because they can find these insects that are living in the permafrost. So there's a connection between the soil and the bugs and the birds. Taiga is for conifer trees. Conifer trees is another name for evergreen trees like Christmas trees or the trees with needles. Those are good for the taiga because when it snows, the snow doesn't break the branches and kill the leaves. But when those needles fall to the ground, they make the soil acidic, which isn't good for new plants to grow. So there's usually not much growing on the floor of a taiga forest. Moose live in the taiga forest. Microclimates are mini climates. So micro means small. So small areas. So for example, a mountain. I'm thinking of like Hawaii is very tropical, but up in the mountains of Hawaii, that's a microclimate that's colder temperatures than the rest of the island of Hawaii. Cities are another example of microclimates because all the streets, the pavement, and the buildings with glass and steel and concrete, that holds in a lot of heat, which changes the climate of a city. The city tends to be more warm than the surrounding areas. Okay, so those are the answers for the directed reading B for the tropical zone, the temperate zone, and the polar zone.